it's just a kind of thin edge around that door, so I'm going to put some framing around it. Some nice kind of detailed beam type stuff here. The super glue's taken pretty well to the plastic here. Again, just lining it up by eye, not too fussed about being accurate. There we go, something like that kind of works. Maybe add a little step. Yeah, I found this nice kind of checker plate pattern stuff here, perfect for a step. Okay, there you go, that's the door. That looks good there. We just do some paneling just to get something going. There's always some sort of vent. Always need a vent. Some nice details on here, but I just had it too big, so cut that down. Trying to make some of these flat surfaces a bit more interesting with a variety to them. I've not decided yet what the function is, what the story is behind this particular building or construction yet. Kind of wait and see what happens with it, see what it looks like. And of course reference that territory tables that we looked at in the previous video to get a bit of direction for what the function of the buildings are. Try and make things that can be tallied up to some of those items in the territory tables. Yeah, just looking for something up on the top here. This nice barrel thing. I'm thinking it might look quite interesting up on there, the two pieces. I think I'll try that. Again, not much time to work with using the super glue, kind of just takes almost instantly there. So I'm just judging it by eye for placement. Try not to stick it to my own fingers too much. Yeah, it makes for some nice shapes on there. I think next, before I do too much on that, I get something built up onto here. So one of the other starter blocks that I made, and I'm wanting to get some overhangs built into this. It's kind of look I'm going for. So I think this can go somewhere up in here. So just a bit of super glue again. I was thinking of adding in some beams under here, and then that way I can start creating a little platform reaching out there. So I've made a couple of these bits. Yeah, I think I'll go with that. Okay, now I need something just to add a platform there. Also need a ladder on this side, so I've got one of these resin cast ones from Zinj Industries that I think I can just cut to size. Just always try to make sure there's access to the levels that I'm building. When I'm looking for bits to serve a purpose on the model, I'll just grab a frame like you see here, one of these sprues with various parts, and you can pick these up loose, or from partly built kits. You can buy whole kits with the sole purpose of breaking them up in this way for kitbashing. And it's basically, you're looking for ones that have, parts that you can really imagine being used in a build, or they look very useful, like these kind of square shaped ones. There's a nice one there. Some nice detailed parts here that also look like they can be glued flat onto a box structure. Nice circular pieces here with details on them. Caps, nice rounded surfaces. So I mean that would be a really good frame. There's an awful lot of bits there that you can apply to various kitbash jobs. And again, this is from that 1:35 scale type kits, which seem to work pretty well with the Warhammer 40k scaling overall. Some slight differences, but in general they suit. So for example, I'm looking for a piece to use as a flat platform here on the overhang. So I've grabbed this frame, and as it so happens there's a part here, a nice kind of flat panel. Okay, it's got a couple of holes in it, but we can fill that in. And it's just a case of grabbing it. And it's a pretty good fit. Okay, I haven't put that on there. I think I actually want some more height, so I've got one of the other buildings that I made. I think that'll go on there as a good fit and give us another overhang. Now, as it so happens, I've got one of these. I think this is a cooling fan for some memory sticks for your PC. So it's not really something that I can imagine being used that commonly now, but nonetheless it's been in the bits box for a while, and it's got a nice industrial look, that set of fans. And I'm thinking if this all lines up, that might just go under there and make for quite an interesting part for the overall assembly. So it seems to fit, so I think I'm going to go for it. Okay, so it's getting taller now. A few layers to it. Plenty of surfaces to clad later on. Maybe some awkward looking joins, but not too worried about that. And then for this I just need to remove the wires. But that will not, well, I can glue that on, but it won't stay. This is pretty heavy. This is a metal piece. So I'm going to have to make a base to hold this all together. So I've got a sheet here of pretty thick styrene, because it's going to have to be quite thick. And then a case of cutting that out, just with a pair of scissors hopefully. Okay, I've glued that base on there now, and it's going to help moving forward and keeping this thing all together. The idea now is going to be to stick this here, so there might be some gaps to fill to get that to stay in place. I may have to move the camera in a better angle. I've tried moving to a wide angle camera view, so maybe a bit easier to see things. Don't want to get too caught up in detailing right now before getting the overall form produced, but I've been cutting up some of these angle section stuff, the styrene strips by Evergreen, and I think it's worth doing this because the difference between leaving just a kind of item glued onto another part here, just a plain edge, does seem to maybe improve it a little bit by bringing in some edging just to kind of finish it off a bit nicer. Just to complete this piece here, a bit of round styrene which will fit there nicely. And now just a case of fitting in this piece. I've added some packers to the top and bottom to try and get it to line up, so that looks like it'll fit not too bad there. It's going to be a mixture of super glue and plastic glue. Yeah, that should hold okay. If I need to strengthen the base, I can always add in some of the styrene strips, the kind of thicker ones, and make it look like a bit of debris on the ground, just in the direction of where the base would bend, and that would just help strengthen it up a bit. Now, as with the last piece, I used some round parts on there, and I think it'd be good to kind of carry that on just to kind of reflect it. It's a slightly smaller radius piece. I'm thinking of just doing something with that up on there. I did find that this piece of some cheap plastic toy or whatever, the radius on there seems to just fit nicely on there, just so I've got a top to it. So I think I'll cut that across. Okay, somewhere there. And then I just want to make it the same height as the top section. Okay, it's ready to go on there, so a little bit of super glue. Kind of want that to be straight if I can, or vertical. Should hold. The edges and things I'm going to get tidied up once I get around to cladding. But that just gives me a kind of round edge, rounded surface, similar to the first piece. I need some access doors to the various platforms. Now that's sitting proud of the surface behind it, just because of the details behind the door. It's got this kind of nice, slightly open look to it. So just to kind of tidy that up, just going to work around the edge with some of the box section stuff. This makes it look a lot better there with the frame around it. This is pretty much a complete door from the side of a truck kit. Happens to come with little clear plastic windows to fit in there. I'm not worried, I'm going to be painting over those anyway, and the super glue will most likely cloud them over. And then, as before, some frames around the outside. I like to just offer up the piece directly to the model and then mark it up that way and cut it. There we go. Just been chopping up one of these terrain pieces, I think from Gorka Morka, kind of tank trap looking thing. But what I thought is it could maybe be used to support a little kind of side platform. I think the mesh is good because it lets some light through. Yeah, I think I'll give that a go. Just for a bit of scale, you can see that there's going to be room on most of these points, like that. So that would let me get a ladder in here so you can get up to the top. So I'll find a ladder for that. Okay, I've just stuck on a piece of plastic there just so I've got something for the ladder to sit over, because once you stick the ladder on you can't really do much behind it. Okay, I've built up a chimney as with the previous build. I'm thinking that'll be nice just up there, won't impede the ladder. I love the difference that makes, having the chimney on it. Seems to really add something. So we're kind of getting there now. I just need to start adding in some dividing framework in preparation for doing the cladding, but before that there's some detailing to do, some major features, got quite a few plain faces that we can add some bits and bobs to, see if we can make it look a bit more interesting. So I've found this 2 items here from my kit. I've actually made them up to a certain stage because I thought they looked quite a nice structural piece, and they happen to be very much the same thickness as the kind of fan section here, and I'm thinking that they could go on there. There's a little kind of shoulder just there that if I cut these down it looks like they would fit really nicely either side, and that would be quite a nice structural element to that. Can fine-tune the base with some packers if needed, and then some model and paste as well, just to kind of smooth out anything that needs blending in. Now this big kind of empty space here at the underside of a tank or some other model, kind of the undercarriage, and that would be a nice detailed part to glue there, but we need to get rid of some of this extra stuff. So we're looking for 11 centimeters. Yeah, okay, so it's almost a perfect cut down the existing join there. Okay, so I've closed off both ends, removed all the excess that I don't need. And that fits there really good. So I'll just super glue that in. And it increases the size of that top platform there. Makes it a bit easier for miniatures to be placed up. Leave room for a railing. Should work. Okay, time to start detailing up the model now. So just a case of grabbing various bits and seeing what fits where. That's from one of these kind of disassembled motor mechanisms or something like that. Just going to detail this up just to fill in these holes that are on the shape. Just try to find bits that happen to slot together and fit. There's no reasoning behind any of this. Just adding whatever happens to fit. Doesn't have to make any sense. It'll all just come together once it gets primed and painted. It's just useful finding parts with little surface details like that. Really ideal for this kind of Gribbling work. The more detail that you add, the more interesting the final piece becomes. What I'm liking about the design of it overall is that when viewed from 3 or maybe 4 different angles, you get quite a different looking silhouette. There's quite a lot of interest going on, not much symmetry. Always good to add in some hanging cables and things. Maybe up on this sloping roof could fit in a few windows or something there. Still need to decide whether I want to add something here or not. Maybe do that later. I think I'm getting there now in terms of having enough detail on here. There's going to be plenty there. So I think all that remains is to start doing the cladding for the walls, some materials on the flooring or the flat surfaces, and then just about there. Put together a little kind of shelter piece using more of that Necromunda marketplace stuff. Add a single sprue of that I picked up, and I think it's going to be useful just including a little bit of that in each of these builds, just to tie them all together a little bit with these, stretched animal hides or whatever these materials are. So I've just kind of put together something that can act as a little shelter up here. I just want to fill in these little gaps that are on here. Found these parts from one of those German 88mm flak gun things, those kits. Quite famous for kitbashing. So I think I'm going to use those in here. Cut a little bit of styrene tube. Again, I don't know what this is going to be, but it's just an interesting shape. Which is all I'm trying to create, really, just interesting shapes. It can be described as being sci-fi in some way. Again, what that is, I've no idea. I'm just gluing stuff on. Maybe at some point it can be a sign to help describe what this structure is or what the function of it is. Looking at my Necromunda territory tables chart, I'm thinking that this may be the gambling den down here. The building here looks kind of strong, heavy duty, the rounded edges. The secure door could be the gambling den. People that work there living above, I don't know. I think that might be the story of the building, or the structure overall. Always good to show ladders for access, and just for the game itself, it gives you areas where you can get on and off the platforms. Just chopped up one of those kill team ladders and then extended it a little bit to make it fit. We give you access to both levels there. Might just add some support to that to help secure it. These little kind of brackets from that Necromunda market stall frame. Okay, now for the flooring. And as in the previous video, I'm going to be using various textured materials, whether it's the styrene sheets or other types of flat material. This stuff with the kind of checker pattern's good. It's just a case of offering the parts up to measure and then cutting them out to suit. And then the same with the walls, where I've created all these panels using the strips of styrene extrusions. Gives me all these little kind of bordered areas into which I can fit some of these other materials. Really starts looking the part now once you get to this stage. Kind of do your best to cut pieces out to fit these random shapes. Even if you're not completely accurate, it doesn't really matter. These structures, the best thing about these kind of structures is they're meant to be ramshackle and makeshift. So if things are a little bit off, all adds to it. As long as you kind of get close. I'm just using a range of different glues for this, depending on what part I'm doing at the time. So that's a complete panel there. For the roof, it's nice to use the kind of corrugated card for that. When I'm finished, I'll take the camera around this so you can see it from different angles better. A good chance to use up any leftovers or scrap material that you have. Those little pieces can usually fit somewhere to make use of them. I'm trying not to leave too many sections without some sort of texture or surface added to them. Maybe one or two left, but in general I'm trying to cover most of them. Because all of these surfaces will get picked up with paint and washes and things like that later on. Now, of course, for the health and safety in the ash wastes, we need some railings. I've just been creating these with that styrene extrusion strips. they can end up being a bit delicate. They're not going to stand up to too much bashing or knocking, but I don't intend to be doing that with these models, so as long as you have room to fit a 28mm miniature on the platforms, I think that's the main thing. When it comes to painting all this, some of these smaller parts can be knocked off, but it's just a case of gluing them back on. I think it's worth the time because it makes a difference visually to the piece. It kind of completes it as a final stage. These grey bits were just ladders from a tank kit or something like that, just conveniently made, very simple ladder section. Still room for the miniatures to fit on. There's not much of a contact point on these items, so as I said, they will be easily broken off. Okay, so that's the building now complete. As I say, it's going to be the gambling den. I think because of this part of the structure down at the bottom there, which looks quite secure or strong. It's got that door, the keypad, you maybe need a password to get in. And it's cool, I was able to make use of that fan from an old computer. Gives it a nice industrial look to things. Got a nice overhang with the gap through. Then we've got a couple other buildings on top. Old Necromunda piece there. Various bits glued on up to the roof. We've got the Necromunda market stall canopy thing, which I'm going to try and build into each of the structures I do. It's a kind of little common theme to run through them. Same with the chimneys. So yeah, I'm happy with it overall. The building's got at least 3 different silhouettes, 3 different viewing angles where essentially it looks almost like a different structure as you look at it from different positions, depending on which way you look at it. You can then bring in the first building from the previous video and this it together quite well. You can see it's starting to take shape. It would be easy to create, if needed, little bridges between the different pieces so that you can get across them. But in essence, you can already really probably run across there if you had to. And I'll be able to make some nice views for painted miniatures once all this is completed. So hopefully the video has been of use to you, maybe giving you some ideas for your own kit bashing and scratch building. Starting off with a simple bit of packaging, various bits of plastic added to it. There's a styrene sheet type construction in there, and then there's also the foam board construction. So all different starting points, but once you glue them together and get the bits and the details added on those various surfaces, it brings it all together, and you end up with what looks like, hopefully, a interesting sci-fi Necromunda, ash wastes, shanty town structure. But until the next video, thanks very much for watching.